Hello viewers, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for watching my video. Thank you for subscribing to my channel. Please, if you're yet to subscribe, kindly touch on the subscribe button and also click on the notification bell to enable you get a notification once I upload new video. In today's tutorial, we're going to be making a short flare gown with turtleneck. I'm going to be using this 3 yards of Ankara fabric for it. So let's get started. The body measurements I will be using for this flare gown are waist measurement, bust to bust, shoulder, half length, and gown length. First of all, we are going to be cutting the down side of this gown. For the down part of our gown, I'm going to be folding my fabric like this in a triangular form. Don't forget, you fold like this. And the length I'm working with for the down side is 25 inches. I'll be adding 1 inch for folding allowance. So here is where I'll be taking my length measurement from. Now I'm going to measure 26 all the way around this side. So I will connect. This is it, 25 inches length, then plus 1 inch for folding allowance. Now where I mark this line, this is where I'm going to be taking my waist measurement from. So my waist measurement is 34. 34 divided by 4 will give us 8.5. You give it a small curve. Here is 8.5. I will then add 2 inches for seam allowance here. This is it. I'm giving mine a small curve. So I will go ahead and cut it out. This is it for the front part of our gown. I will use this one now, place on top of this fabric to cut out the back side. Don't forget to add zip allowance. And I'll be using 1.5 inch for zip allowance. I will measure 1.5 inch here. Mark it out. So this is my zip allowance here. I'll use the front part, place it on top of this one to cut out the back side. This is it. One part of our back side. To get the second part of our back side, I also use this side, place it on top of my fabric to get the second part of our back side. Then I will also cut out the same thing. This is it. This is the front side and this is the back side plus zipper allowance. I will also cut out the lining that I will be using for it. For the upper part of our gown, I will be cutting a princess bustier for the upper part of our gown. So first I'm going to be cutting the back side. I'll fold my fabric into two. Also mark out my zipper allowance, 1.5 inch. This is it, my zip allowance, 1.5 inch. I'm using 1.5 inch for zip allowance, and my half length is 16 inches. I'll be adding 1 inch for folding allowance, making it 17 inches. I also mark it out. Here is 17 inches, both with fold joining allowance. My shoulder measurement is 16 inches. 16 divided by 2 will give us 8 inches. See where I'm taking my measurement from this zip line. Also on this side, I will mark out 3 inches for shoulder slope. Where I mark my 8 inches for shoulder, I will go down by 1 inch for shoulder slope. I will then connect it. For the neck width, I will be using 3.5 inches for the neck width, and for the depth I will be using 1.5 inch for the depth, because it will be a high neck gown. And also mark out shoulder and armhole curve. I also take bust measurement, divide by 4, add 2 inches for seam allowance. Also take waist measurement, divide by 4, add 1 inch for that and 2 inches for seam allowance. Then connect the lines and also cut it out. Then open up this place. This is the back side of our gown. For the front side of our upper part, I will cut the center one first before cutting the two sides. So I'm folding my fabric into two. Measure out my half length, 16 inches, then add 1 inch for joining allowance, making it 17 inches. I will mark it out. This is it. My half length plus joining allowance. My shoulder to bust line is 12 inches. Here is 12 inches. I also take my shoulder measurement. 16 divided by 2 will give us 8 inches. I also take 1 inch for shoulder slope. Then where I mark 1 inch, I will measure out 3 inches for armhole. Here is it. This is our shoulder measurement. 16 divided by 2 will give us 8 inches. And this is our 1 inch for shoulder slope. Also from this side, you measure out 3 inches to get shoulder slope. For armhole, I'm using 3 inches here for the center one. Here is from shoulder to bust line, and where I mark shoulder to bust line, I will go up by 3 inches and also mark out 3 inches down here. Our bust to bust is 8 inches. I will divide into 2. Remember, our fabric is folded into 2. 8 divided by 2 will give us 4 inches. But I will be adding quarter inch to it for seam allowance. This quarter inch depends on what you sew with. You can sew with half an inch. So I'm going to mark 4 1/4 down to our half length. I will also connect it with my ruler. This is it. So I'm going to connect from these 3 inches that I'm using for shoulder. Give it a small curve. So this is it, our shoulder slope, armhole, shoulder to bust line. Then I measure 3 inches up, 3 inches down here. Curve it from these 3 inches that I mark for armhole. Curve it. For our neckline, I'll be using 3 inches for the width. Then the depth, I'll also use 3 inches. Then curve it because it will be a turtle neck. This is it. I will go ahead and cut it out. Also, don't forget to notch where you mark 3 inches down, shoulder to bust line, and also where you mark 3 inches up. For this neckline, you can also use 4 inches. It depends on how up you want your turtleneck to be. So I will use this one to cut out the 2 sides. I also fold my fabric into 2. Then use this front center one, place it here. This is our half length. I also leave a space at this back for bust curve. So I'll be using 2 inches for bust curve. So I will measure out 2 inches here and also mark it out. This is it. I've marked out 2 inches for bust curve. These 2 inches depend on how busty the person is. You can use more than 2 inches also. So I will place this center one on these 2 inches line that I marked here. Also trace out where I notch. Then trace it out here to our shoulder. Trace it out here to our armhole. And our armhole is 18 inches. 18 divided by 2 will give us 9 inches. Here is 9 inches. I also go in here by 1.5 inch to get our armhole curve. In case you don't have armhole curve, take 4.5 inches here. Then from this 4.5 inches, curve it down here. My bust measurement is 42. 42 divided by 4 will give us 10.5. Here is 10.5. Also take 2 inches for seam allowance. I'm starting my measurement from this folded one, from this center one. My waist measurement is 34 inches. 34 divided by 4 will give us 8.5. I also take 2 inches for seam allowance. So now I will connect the lines. This is it for the two sides. This is the line that I'm working with. So from this line here, from this line, I will give it a small curve. Come and meet our 2 inches for bust curve. This is where I'm stopping. Then from this 3 inches that I marked down here, also curve it up. This is it. So I will go ahead and cut it out. This is it. The center one, when you open it up, it will be like this. The two sides. I'll also go ahead and cut out the line. I will cut out the center lining, the two sides, join them, and this is how I'm going to sew. You place here on top of this notch here, these 3 inches that I measure down. Then sew, open it up, and also join the other side. And I also do the same thing on the line. For the armhole, I will go in by 2.5 inches. These 2.5 inches depend on how open you want your armhole side to be. Because it will be a turtleneck, then I will curve it to come and meet this armhole here. You give it a small curve. This is it. And you can also choose to go in with more than 2.5 inches. This is it. I also go ahead and cut out the lining. Line it, insert our dart. For the front side, this is the breast pad I use. This is the front side. I also cut out the lining the same way and also join it the same way I joined our fabric. This is it. And this is the down part of the front side. I also lined it. For the front shoulder armhole side, remember the back one will remove 2.5 inches from here. So I also remove 2.5 inches from this front side. Fold into 2. Measure out 2.5 inches. Then connect it. Down to armhole. And these 2.5 inches, it depends on how open you want your armhole side to be. You can use more than 2.5 inches, or if you don't want your own to be that open, you can use maybe 2 inches or 1 inches. So I will cut it out. I'm going to cut this place out and also do the same thing on the lining. Line it and also join into the down part of our gown. This is it. I finished lining them. This is the two back sides. I also inserted that to it. Now is to insert zip, and for the zip I'm going to be using 19 inches length. This is where my zip will stop, and I also mark out 1.5 inches that I use for zip allowance. down to this 19 inches. Then from this 19 inches, close it up down. So this is the back side. I've inserted zip. This is the zip. Now is to take body measurement. Okay, the bust I'm working with is 42 inches. Let's divide by 2 will give us 21 inches. So I'll check what is remaining. 2.5. I will take 1 and 2 from this side. 1 and 2 from here. The width I'm working with is 34 inches divided by 2 will give us 17 inches. Also check what is remaining. 2 inches. I will take 1 from here. Also take 1 from here. Then connect it. This is how I'm going to sew. So I will join these lines together and also join this shoulder here, and that will be all. This is it. Thank you so much for watching till the end. Please, if you are here to subscribe, kindly touch on the subscribe button to subscribe, and also click on the notification bell so that you get a notification once I upload new video. See you guys in my next class. Bye.